think that the challenge that CIA has is that it has a lot of very smart, very hardworking, very dedicated heroes who work as worker bees. And then you have political appointees and career seeking govies who become the senior level managers. So when you are in government, you only have one track to promotion, and that is to further entrench yourself in government. When you're in the commercial sector, when you're like a corporate executive, you actually want to broaden and challenge the status quo, because you might work for Shell this year, but then next year you might get hired by Exxon, and then next year you might get hired by Amazon, and then next year you might get hired by Google, right? So you want to constantly broaden and challenge the status quo, whereas in government, you have one way to promotion: entrench yourself in the status quo.
Deeper and deeper. And so bureaucracy inevitably just takes over and clogs it up.
Correct. So that's what ends up happening, and those are the people who are in charge. And then you've got this whole workforce at the bottom that has to decide, what is my career path going to be? Do I entrench to try to climb, or do I bail the fuck out? And what you've seen ever since the Trump election in 2016 is a mass exodus of people in the intelligence community, because Trump challenged the intelligence community, just like you said, right? And once he challenged it and said, you guys are a bunch of idiots, you keep calling me a Russian spy, all of a sudden that called into question whether CIA even knew what they were doing.
Okay, I want to talk about the Trump thing. Trump steps in and he chooses not to use CIA for his intelligence.
Right.
He openly says that?
Correct.
And then who does he use?
He commercializes, he hires commercial intelligence.
Wow, that
For
was my
example,
next.
like, do you know James Baker?
Yes.
So James, who used to work for the CIA,
Yep.
like you, used to work, and now he has his own private intelligence firm. So would Trump, I love James, by the way, great guy. We called him for the Netflix show, 100% still works for the CIA. 1,000%. I love you. He's so fucking talented. Like, he can host a comedy show. He'll be on Fox News hosting a show, but 100% still works for the CIA. And that's like the best position, which I think you also do. But we'll get to that in a second. Now, he would hire him and then get his intelligence from him and his company.
Right.
Got
So
it.
the reason that works, the idea of commercialized intelligence, or private intelligence is what it's called on the inside. Private intelligence is a successful business model, because private intelligence can do things that national security governance can't do.
For example?
The war on drugs. It's very difficult for you to get congressional funding to fight the war on drugs doing things as inefficiently as the federal government does them. You got to send troops, you got to get orders approved. Like, there's a huge cost that comes with all the administrative stuff of getting the government to do something.
Okay.
In the commercial sector, you basically write them a check for $2 million and say, hey, we need secrets about cocaine drug lords. And then the company does whatever they need to do to get those secrets. So maybe they hire 5 former SEALs, 2 former Colombian Special Forces, 2 former Mossad, and they go in, and maybe they do good things, maybe they do bad things, but they definitely deliver secrets, right?
Wow.
And that's where private intelligence becomes powerful. And Donald Trump,
It's the efficiency of privatization.
Donald
Yeah.
Trump knew that and took advantage of that. And as a result of that, he essentially showed in 4 years that CIA was super powerful, but can be replaced by private intelligence.
Wow.
Okay, so then I think it was on Lex's pod, you were speaking about this a little bit. And then he also limited something. He limited security clearance for people who would leave CIA. This is important.
This is important because this was one of the things that Trump did very well that he never got credit for. The way that you make money when you're a federal government employee is not being a federal government employee. Like 30 years and you're a senior ranking officer and you're making $160,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
that's not what people want to do with their life, right? A junior salesperson can make $250,000. So what ends up happening is you work those 30 years so that you can build a network and so you can have very high level clearances. And those clearances don't expire the day you resign. They expire with time. So when you have a top secret clearance or a secret clearance, the thing that makes it expire is either you break a law and they pull it from you, or you don't engage in activity, you don't engage in a job where you use that access. As long as you keep using that access, it keeps being valid.
The job is for the government, or can it be any job?
It's a job for the government because the government is what defines classification.
Got it.
Right? So now you're a senior intelligence officer making $160,000 a year, you retire from government. Well, now you have all the contacts of all the other offices inside the agency, contacts with FBI, NSA, DIA, NGA, right? You're connected to everybody. So then Booz Allen Hamilton or CACI or Mantech or any one of the big national security intelligence contractors, they can hire you, make you a executive vice president, pay you $400,000 a year.
And they're essentially paying for your clearance.
And what they're paying for is for your access to all these other agencies because of your network.
So Trump shut that down because there was like a brain drain, if you will. People were leaving the agency to go work in the private sector and go make money. And he was like, you're not going to leave the agency and take your clearance. So you could either stay here or you could leave, but you're not going to take that.
And there was a second reason to doing it. The other reason he was doing it was because he wanted to limit the competition of private intelligence firms outside of the firms that he was using.
Oh, so he was doing it to scratch their backs.
Oh, for sure. So he was doing it to scratch their backs.
Oh my God, this is next level shit.
And then
good reason.
I was ready. I was like, MAGA hat on.
Finally, one thing good.
Okay, so he's scratching the backs of his friends. His friends allegedly, let's just say, have these intelligence companies. What would you call them? Firms?
Yeah, private intelligence firms.
Private intelligence firms. And so they already have these employees that have clearance?
Yes, and there's also employees that don't have clearance, right? But it's all about, at the end of the day, I know this might shatter your trust in the federal government. It's still a good old boys network. It's still who do you know, who do you trust, and who's going to be loyal to you when people turn on you. That's still very much how the government works.
Okay.
And that's just because it's hard for the government to evolve. It's not like the commercial sector that can evolve very quickly.
It has to.
You said there was a mass exodus when Trump came into office. Is it the older people that are like by the rules, or the younger?
It's the younger generation.
And why?
They were leaving.
The younger generation's leaving because they're asking themselves the
What's
question.
my future?
Wow. And my future's in the private sector. I'm out of this.
I can make
30
more
years,
money.
I'm not going to be able to take my clearance with me. I'm going to make no money for 30 years and then not even have the balloon when I retire of private security.
And what does their career look like? Their career looks like serving a federal government that can't tell its ass from its elbows.
Yeah.
Right? And don't forget, too, that from 2016 to 2020, during that Trump administration, he didn't trust the CIA. So when he doesn't trust the CIA...
For good reason?
For mixed reasons. Some were good, some were bad. But keep in mind that the CIA falls under the executive...
What'd you say? The what?
Got him! Got him!
Well done.
He's my asset now.
This is my asset now.
Is that
Let's
how it
go.
works?
Keep going. That's all it is.
He's like a Pokemon?
That's all it is, bro. You slowly get them to, what is it, get on board? What is
There
it?
you go. There you go.
Fuck yeah.
I got worn down. I got worn down.
That's it. That's it.
But you keep in mind that CIA, right? CIA falls under the executive branch. There's 3 branches of government, right? The executive branch, the boss is the executive, the president. So when CIA
Isn't
can't,
listening to the boss.
the boss doesn't fund them. So when the boss says, I don't need you, I'm going to cut your funding, now all of a sudden your operations get cut. Everybody who's working there can't get those sexy operations that they need in order to get their promotions.
Now, is that system
This sucks.
built?
I agree.
No.
Because
it's
like in
scary.
20 years' time, all the government agencies are going to be shit because we're not getting any of the best young talent.
But think about real quick. The system then is set up not to bring forth the best data and intelligence. It's built to satisfy the boss. And satisfying the boss might not keep America its safest, because sometimes what the boss wants to be true is not. If there's an imminent threat and the boss doesn't care about it, but the CIA is like, yo, this is what it is, and you need to fucking listen and you need to fund this. This is a big problem. Now, the CIA fucks up when you lose the confidence of the boss. So this is a huge issue.
It's a massive issue. This is why you hear so many people, every election cycle, you will hear people talk about intelligence reform. This is what they're talking about.